Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahavidyam Karavavahaye Tejaswi Navadi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavihai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Namaste. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share a few ideas of mine with you. Let me directly go to the topic. Particularly, the last webinar, I was very attentively there with Dr. Prasad Kaipa. It was an excellent presentation, beautiful and very informative. And taking the lead from him, I think that I will proceed in this way. The very definition of yoga as Patanjali gives is that Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Chitta Vritti means actually the whole mind stuff. And then when you remove that, what will happen? When you cross that, what will happen? Tatha drashtuhu swarupi avasthanam. That means you are established in yourself, or when you are nature called as consciousness, or what we call it as Jivatma, you become one with that. So, in order to cross that, it's very simply said. That means to say, you just quieten the mind that you are there in the Swarupa or self. But how to do that? It's not only our problem, but the problem of Arjuna. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks Krishna how to do that. He gives two paths by which that you can proceed. That's how, first of all, the practice of yoga is divided into two different categories. One category is Abhyasa and the other is Vairagya. Abhyasena tu konteya, Vairagyena tu gruhyate. The same thing. Even Patanjali also says, Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam tad nirodha, tad chitta vritti nirodha. Abhyasa is the method of discipline and Vairagya is the method of non-attachment. It does not mean giving up everything and going away. A lot of people have that confusion. But it is to see that you proceed without any attachment, and this is what is the idea that Vairagya gives us. And another way that when we express that Vairagya is let go and then proceed forward. And this is what is the idea in Vairagya. Now, let me connect it with this particular idea of Jnana Yoga. First of all, Jnana means knowledge. And you acquire the knowledge with the help of intellect. We have various tools by which that you connect with the world outside, like eyes to see, ears to hear, and tongue to taste. So that's how you interact with the world, you connect yourself with the world. Of all these senses by which that you connect with the world, the most fascinating sense, most extraordinary sense, and most sensitive sense also is intellect. And in fact, the Sanatana Dharma says that of all the species, man is the one who is endowed with this extraordinary ability of this particular intellect. And that's why buddhiri tesham adhiko viseshaha. Buddhi is supposed to be the intellect aspect of it. And that is something which makes extraordinary. And today we can see that all this technology development, everything that happened at by the man of all the species, it's because that he has this extraordinary tool called his intellect. And the way this intellect functions is by questioning, by inquiry. Like the way that eyes function by seeing, ears function by hearing, the same way intellect functions by questioning. And the child develops this questioning ability once the child crosses about 6-7 years, and then he starts questioning. That is the indication that his intellect has started now growing. Ask anything, he says why, where. So this question of why, where, and all those things come because intellect has developed. And when you encourage this questioning, and that's where the answers that you get is supposed to be jnana. So we have all this knowledge supposed to be jnana is because that we started questioning. When we did not question that, we didn't know many things. Like the way when the thunder comes, lightning comes, we say bolts from the blue, God sent something. We didn't know about that. We were ignorant of it. But then when we started questioning, we found out electricity, and we found out that this is nothing but static electricity and formation, all that. Now that fear goes away because that we have the knowledge. So this using the intellect and getting the knowledge is supposed to be jnana. But then what becomes Jnana Yoga? The knowledge that can make our life comfortable outside is knowledge, no doubt about it. But there is also another kind of knowledge which can take us towards that peace of mind or beyond the level of mind stuff. That means to say chitta vritti. It can take beyond. It can take beyond even our intellect. And that's what is the level where you are blissful. That means you transcend the intellect so that you are blissful. That's what is the idea. Mind, intellect, every activity. And then you are blissful, one with the self. So using this intellect to see that how we can transcend that. It's like the way a pole vault person, he takes the support of the pole and then goes all the way up, and then once he crosses the bar and then leaves the pole behind. If he holds on to that, then he'll be not successful. The same way, use the intellect to see that you cross the intellect, leave the intellect behind and go ahead. Let go the intellect. It's a very simple thing. But then it is necessary to hold on to that until that you cross. Not to deny that, but to transcend that. Let go is never to deny, but to transcend. Even in the world also, that you are somewhere, you are doing something, but then you let go so that you transcend. That's the idea. In fact, this whole knowledge of Jnana Yoga is given by our teacher, Professor Shastri, extraordinary brilliant guy, person who gave us all this information. He is like our teacher, and he is a guide for the Vyasa. You know, he was a chemistry professor in a college, very good professor, and then he was vice principal also. He was tipped to be principal. At that time, suddenly he realized that, look, I've already served for so many years in this, and then now I can do something on my own, develop something with my intelligence and all those things. If I give up this job, another youngster will get a job. So he got this idea, and then immediately he put that idea in front of his friends. He said that, look, particularly those days, India was struggling with the job conditions. He said that I will resign so that somebody will take up. He resigned, and that became a big news. He let go. That was the idea, that he let go to see that somebody is benefited. At the same time, he will have his free time to see that how he can go into developing something, and then that is how he took himself towards Vedanta. So practically in daily life that he did it out of joy, out of pleasantness. So this let go does not mean that you are going down, but it is going up. In order to go up, you need to let go the lower level. Like the way that the shell is something which is very safe for in the egg, for the bird inside, and it helps the bird to grow. But at one point of time, the bird has to let go the shell and come out of it. Otherwise, this very shell itself becomes like a prison for him. The bird cannot grow, will die inside that. So that's why it breaks open and comes out. From the shell point of view, from the egg point of view, doesn't know what's happening. I am crumbling down. I am going down. Whereas on the other hand, that very egg is giving rise to a bird. So from the shell consciousness when you are there, from the egg consciousness when you are there, it looks like a disaster. Why? Because that egg has an attachment with that egg consciousness. Whereas Moment it comes to the level of, I'm not just egg, I'm a bird, I need to journey forward, go ahead. That's when you let go. Very simple thing in the nature. You're climbing up the stairs, you keep your foot on a very strong hold. And the moment you take the next foot, don't you take out next step? Don't you take out foot from your this step? Let go the previous one. Don't hold on to it. This forward journey, making this possible, is what is the beautiful facility for this let go. And that we can use the intellect to go towards that. That's what is basically the Jnana Yoga. Ultimately, our very nature itself is peace, harmony, bliss, and health. All these things are our own nature. That's why we have such terms. Health is supposed to be swasthya. That means to say swa means self, stha means being. And ananda is supposed to be the nature that we are. Anandamaya kosha. And deep inside, we are the consciousness. All that we are. When can we realize, when we can identify with that is when you let go the previous levels and then we go forward. All those things are there and use it whenever it is necessary. Otherwise, don't have to hold on to it. The same thing about the intellect also. Use it when the intellect is necessary. Otherwise, don't bring in the intellect, you just leave it alone. Be blissful. This is what is the suggestion that Jnana Yoga tries to give us. And the world outside, yes, it gives you, it takes you in touch with the ananda, your own nature. You eat nice, wonderful food when you are hungry, and that gives you ananda. And when you are tired, you sleep, it gives you ananda. So like that, objective world definitely gives you ananda. And that you don't have any other experience of ananda other than being in the world. That's why whatever that ananda that the objective world gives, bliss that it gives, is a small little part of that tiny part of your own nature called as bliss. This is what Shastra says. Vishayanandoho Brahmanandaha. Even the small little object, ananda that object gives, bliss that it gives, is also nothing but a small little part of it, like the way that the candle light that gives me light in darkness is also part of the same sun that is there on the sky. But then it is a very, very tiny part of it. If we realize that when the sun is in front of it, we don't have to hold on to that candle. And that's the reason why in Yoga Vasishtha very beautifully says that object interaction with the object gives you that blissful state. Drishya darshana sambandhe yanubhutir namayaha. It gives you an extraordinary, wonderful feeling, experience by the interaction with the object outside. Drishya is an object, darshana is the process of involving in the object, gives you that ananda. Drishya darshana sambandhe anamayaha anubhuti. That means to say unexplainable kind of bliss that you get. But then what happens? If you hold on to the object, drishya sambalita bandhaha. If you hold on to the object binds you. Tanmukta muktiruchyate. If you hold on to the experience, then you are blissful all the time. But unfortunately, what happens for us is that we hold on to the object, and slowly what happens, that object does not give you the same kind of an experience. And now you would like to have more and more object, bigger and bigger object. So this is how the whole rat race goes on. Not only that, we are in that particular rat race, but even the advertisement industry also helps in that direction. You must have this, you must have that, you must have a bigger house with lesser money. I mean, all kinds of things. Houses for you to take shelter. But then we play more with the ambition rather than just utility. Object is for the sake of need to give utility, but it is not for the sake of blissful state. Bliss is within us. Realizing this is what is supposed to be the idea of Jnana Yoga. Analyze it. We have never analyzed what is happiness. See, this is what everybody goes towards happiness. I'm not saying that. This is Shastra says that we do every activity for the sake of happiness. Sukhameva labdva karoti, na sukham labdva na karoti. We don't do it if it does not give us happiness. Be very clear. But then the whole world over, that's what is the thing. That's a truth of the mankind. But then what happens? This is where the twist of Indian philosophy, Sanatana Dharma comes. Everybody else says that, come on, this object gives me happiness, that object. And so we go on chasing. What object gives me happiness? What situation gives me happiness? This is what the rest of the world did. Including Karl Marx is also a great philosopher. He also said that it is for maximize your happiness. All that philosophy has given. Everything is for the sake of what arrangement gives you happiness, what object gives you happiness. They went on that way. Whereas Upanishad first time, Sanatana Dharma, the Jnana Yoga says that Sukhameva labdhva karoti, nasukam labdhva na karoti, Sukhameva vijignyasitam jamiti. You need to understand what is the happiness. Don't look at what gives happiness. This turn is something which is very important. This question, what is happiness? When you start questioning it, you clearly see that happiness is not because of the world, objective world outside, but it is your own nature. Objective world helps you to touch that. But your own nature is happiness. How do you say that our nature is happiness? A very simple example for that is look at your deep sleep state. A really wonderful sleep. There is no dream at all. You're absolutely in the deep sleep. And you are blissful. We all enjoy that. There's nobody who does not enjoy the sleep. And what happens in the deep sleep state? No object is coming and give you happiness. No object can enter into you to improve your happiness at that time when you are enjoying the sleep. When you are in a wonderful, good sleep, and somebody plays your choicest music, it's your choicest music that always used to give you happiness. But then immediately you shout at him saying that, stop that music, let me sleep. I mean, I tried all these experiments with my son when he was young. Now he has grown up. Like all youngsters, he sets alarm and goes to sleep, doesn't wake up. It's dad who has to wake him up. So I go to shake him, break him, shout at him and all that. Nothing works. Then I realized one small little tool. I played his choicest music in his Walkman and then put the earphones around his ears nicely. And he said, Papa, don't disturb. I said, no, I'm not disturbing. I'm trying to improve your happiness. He knows very well. I know very well. No object from outside can give you happiness. And you are touching your own nature called happiness. But unfortunately, what happens? Sleep is something which is not in our hands. You can't go to that unusual state of happiness of sleep. When you want it, you want to sleep, nice, wonderful bed is there, you lie down, you roll around. Sleep does not happen. Where you don't want it, it doesn't happen. Where you want it, it doesn't happen. Where you don't want, it happens. Like sitting in my lecture. Yeah, I know that you don't want to sleep, but I know you have no control over that. So that state of happiness is something which is not in your control. Whereas a consciously quietening the mind and going beyond is one thing which is there in your nature. This is what Jnana Yoga says, that if you can really quieten your mind and stay quietly, that's what is a state of happiness. All other things set aside, including the intellect. Buddhischana vichesthati tam ahuhu paramam gatim. Paramagati, extraordinary status, buddhischana vichesthati. Even the intellect is not functioning. Intellect is kept aside. But you are wakeful. And that's what is a state of happiness. There's another very important aspect of our own consciousness nature is it has the freedom. You have a freedom. Freedom is your own nature. Nobody needs to give the freedom from outside. It's your own nature. This is another thing which Jnana Yoga says. It's a very simple idea that, when you want to find out somebody is conscious from an unconscious state when he's gaining consciousness, first thing is that ask him to open your eyes. And if he can open his eyes, that means to say freedom to do that. That freedom is the first manifestation of this consciousness. And we have that freedom within us. And exercise that freedom and let go. Freedom when you don't apply the freedom, that you hold on to it. When you apply the freedom, you let go. And that is the advantage that we have with the help of understanding about this freedom. Now, the manifestation of freedom is in the form of, every activity that man is engaged right from the childhood is an expression of this freedom. If you closely watch it, it is expression of this particular freedom that's there within us, or in other words, expression of consciousness in the form of freedom. Like, for example, child is lying down, turns around, looks at the world. Wow, now I can look at the whole world. When I'm flat, all that what I see is the ceiling, but now I can see the whole people moving and all that. And then he also now motivated to move, he gets up and then starts walking. Every step, when you look at it, it is nothing but an expression of freedom in the child. So it is the freedom which makes us to go like that. And it is because of this freedom only that we say, okay, all right, I would learn, I would get my money, I would get this, I would get job, so that my freedom is getting an expression into this particular thing. So all these things are nothing but an expression of our own freedom that is there within us. Step by step by step, that's what is happening. And later on, it comes to a level where economic freedom, political freedom, geographical freedom, these are the things which we feel that we have freedom. Every time that you see that any activity, there is this degree of freedom that you have. But then what is very important thing to understand is that these are all the freedom that is there outside, but we all just expression of the freedom that's already there within us. And that is very important aspect that we need to understand that. And what is that? Somebody says something that I get upset very easily. And that means to say, I am answerable to somebody what he says. And this is psychological freedom. And this psychological freedom that we all have it. This is what a very great emphasis of Jnana Yoga. It says that you are free inside to get worked up or not to get worked up. We get easily driven by the things that are there outside. And of course, yes, there is certain importance is there for being in this world, so that you try to manage with this world. But beyond that, there is so much of freedom that is there within us, but we get easily affected by the world outside. This is what Jnana Yoga says. Manaha kartum akartum anyata kartum samaddham bhavati. Mind has a capacity to get involved or to get free, not to get involved, the otherwise. So all these things are possibility of the mind. Like I lose something and I'm upset. But if you closely watch, if somebody asks the question, why are you upset? Because I lost. I lost somebody near and dear. Okay, fine, you are upset. But what happens after a month time, after 2 months? Slowly, have you not come out of that upset? Is it not become very easy now to take it? Yeah, on the first day, when somebody is lost, you can't even speak a word because you're so touched at your heart. You're emotional. But a week later, you explain about it. A month later, you can say very clearly about that. That indicates that you slowly came out of it. We have a capacity to come out of situation. This is what Shastra says, philosophy says. If you did not have this ability to come out of those disturbances, you wouldn't have been living. You have that space within you to give that freedom. If you didn't have that freedom, imagine in the last 30, 40, 50, 100 years of life, how many things that happened might have upset you. But then you came out of it. You came out of it. All those things are a background. So nature also provides you the way that you come out of it. Like as a child, there was something that happened, really upset me that day, as if there is no meaning in my life. But then sooner. That means a few days later, I said, what is this nonsense? I was upset about that. I could easily come out of it, though I was in ignorance. Not that I had all this philosophical knowledge. That means to say, to apply this particular freedom, we didn't require a big philosophical knowledge. We could come out of it. How many things that were there in the childhood which were holding on to it very strongly, did we not outgrow that? We outgrew that. We came out of it. This possibility of outgrowing is what is called as let go, growing to a higher level. But then what happens is we allow it for the natural process to happen. But what yoga says is, can we use the intellect to cross that consciously? Sooner that we can come out of it. In fact, some people hold on to the anger because somebody said something, upsets you, they're angry. So angry that years together you hold on to that anger. Years together. Oh, that fellow said. One case like that, two sisters were fighting. They were not in talking terms. I asked one sister, so why don't you tell her this way that I'm here? She said, no, I don't talk to her. Wow. I said, why don't you talk to her? The lady replied, I'm angry with her. I said, why? What's the reason? I don't know the reason, but I'm still angry. That means to say the cause is forgotten, but the anger held on to it. Why? Leave it. You don't need to leave it. In fact, cause itself has dropped. There is a point in holding on to it. So how many times that we hold on to the things like that, just because of we are upset, it's all our ego. It's all our ego. That's what Jnana Yoga says, that analyze it. You don't have to hold on to it. Leave it alone. Something upsets you. Yeah, question it. Why am I upset? You don't have to feel upset about it. That's all right. You can just put it aside and then go ahead. Next job, next work. So this way, every moment that we can apply this idea of questioning, that's what a Jnana Yoga, to see that in the day-to-day life, we are not disturbed about that. Applying this freedom is what we call it as the Jnana Yoga aspect of it. Sorry. So this progress is what is basically the idea of let go, non-attachment. Object is not holding on to you. In fact, the person who upsets you, he might have even forgotten and then he moved ahead. But then you hold on to it because that you think that is very important. It's you hold on to the object. It's very jocularly said that if you don't lock the house will not run behind you. You have to run behind the house. Similarly, if you are holding taking the dog for a walk, leash is there in the neck of the dog and then you are holding. Now, who is taking who for a walk? Actually, we say that I'm taking the dog for a walk as if, it's my ego. Really what's happening is that the dog is taking you for a walk. Leave the dog, you see what happens, who runs behind who? You run behind the dog. Then who is the leader and who is the follower? This is how the whole world is leading us. The whole world is taking around, making us to go around. I get back to that. Next door neighbor has a bigger house than I have. Now you are in trouble. Why? Because I should have a big house. He has a better car than you have. You want to do all this comparison. It's all about the question of ego. In this nature, God has created variety. Everything is in variety. There is nothing like competition at all, comparison at all. Look at the way dogs do not compare with each other. It's only human being. He compares. He compares with something which is incomparable. Like, for example, a very simple example, beauty is gift of God. We all know that. That's what Shakespeare said. But then, we have all those things. Like, for example, Miss Universe. I wonder at that because all the girls are from this planet. No girl comes from another planet. But then you create all that competition, all that. Yeah, for the sake of fun, you do it. But don't take it seriously. No dog compares with another dog. They're just wonderful. Big dog is fine, small dog is also fine. But then we compare them. Dog show. How many such things we have introduced unnecessarily? And the dogs is only interested in whatever that you say, he will do it so that he will get a piece of meat or a biscuit. Finish. Once you give that, dog says, okay, everything is over from the park. Let's go home. You're waiting. Why? All the other dogs have to finish. Okay. Then still you are waiting. Why? There are some 4 people, 6 people are sitting and putting marks on that. If they are dogs, okay, but they are human beings. They put the marks. And then say winner dog. Nothing happens to winner dog. But the owners start jumping. More importantly is the loser dogs, they are fine. But then their owners, they go into depression. We created all this kind of thing. For the sake of fun, you do it. Don't take it seriously. Let go. How many things in life we can take them from the point of view of Leela. That's what is a beautiful word in Sanskrit we have. The word take as much as possible as Leela. And then manage the world. The rules are there, regulations are there, all those things are there. When I say let go, it does not mean don't follow the traffic rules from tomorrow. Follow the rules, follow the regulations, follow the world the way that it is. But inside, be peaceful. Don't get attached by that. Don't get addicted to that. This is what is the idea, let go. And it is nobody else can do it. We can do it for ourselves. In Jnana Yoga, that there are 3 different steps that are there. First step is you listen to it. In fact, often people think Jnana Yoga means learning Sanskrit, this and that. All these big words that people talk about. Aham Brahmasmi. In Sanskrit, it's a big word, but what is that Brahman? Brahman is this freedom. Brahman is that without any boundary. That's what is the definition of Brahma, boundary-free state. Any boundary is a bondage. Freedom from that is what we have. Dostoevsky was put in the prison. He wrote back to the ruling there those days in Russia. You can put this body in the prison, but you can never imprison me. Freedom is mine. How clearly he sees the difference between the body and the freedom inside, the consciousness. Socrates was given poison, and while giving the poison, they said he should suffer the dying. The kind of poison, it just does not kill him right away, but he should slowly die, suffer the dying. Socrates takes the poison, he is reporting to the people, yeah, my hands are benumbed. I can see the blueness in my hands and all that, blue color. Are you not crying? Are you not suffering? The disciples asked Socrates. Socrates said, I have taken poison, I must die. Must I also suffer? That means to say, the poison has to do its job, physical job. But then to suffer or not to suffer is my freedom inside. No court can say that I should suffer. If man suffers, it's not because of anybody else. It's because he allowed himself to suffer. We have such beautiful example at the spiritual level. Jesus Christ, when he fixed on the cross, why me? Because the other people, they were criminals. But I did not do anything like that. Why me? But the next moment, he said, forgive them, O Lord. They don't know what they are doing. When he said, my me, that means he's identified himself with the body. But when he said, forgive them, O Lord, he did not identify himself with the body. He identified himself with the Jivatma, with the Atma that is there, the consciousness which is within, which does not die, which does not suffer. That's why it is said that when he complained, why me, son of Mary? When he said that forgive them, O Lord, he was son of God. Let go to become the son of Mary and go to become son of God. We all have within us the physical body. Mary is a physical mother, and born to the physical mother is the physical body. But consciousness is not what mother has given, but it is something that what you are. And that's what you have come from. So essentially, the whole idea is to see that how we grow from the level of body to the level of physical body, Annamaya Kosha, to become Anandamaya Kosha ourselves. That's what Upanishads say. That's what Patanjali said. Tatha drashtuhu sarupi avasthanam. Let go to become that you are the consciousness. You are the deep inside. That's undisturbed kind of thing, blissful all the time. You don't need anything to make you feel happy, blissful. And that's what is the freedom that you have. That's the reason why in the Sanatana Dharma, anybody who takes to this path is given a name of title of Ananda, Dayananda, Satyananda, Vivekananda. So let's become that. Let that be our way of life. So with these ideas, I think I will leave it now. Maybe it's time for me. I think somebody.
Thank you so much. Oh. Thank you so much, Professor Raghuram.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
We are so grateful, humbled, and inspired by the wisdom that you shared with us here today. Personally, I just thank you so much. Before moving to question and answers, I'm just going to take an opportunity to share a bit about my own yogic journey and my experience at VaYU. In essence, the practice of yoga has transformed my life. A lot of the things you talked about, Professor, I have experienced, and I'm so grateful. Ironically, it took a lot of suffering before I was willing to let go and surrender. My own mother recommended I do yoga my whole life, and I wouldn't do it because I just didn't want her to be right. I just was so stubborn. And then when I finally let go and just surrendered, I let go of my ego, my control of everything, and my anger. Yoga magically came into my life, and it's been a beautiful journey since. Nothing short of divine grace, to be perfectly honest. I'm just going to share a short video, and let me just share my screen. Perfect. Oh, it's not working. Sorry about that. Can you see the screen?
Namaste. Not yet.
No. Let's see. Let me try again. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Namaste. My name is Kusumjoy T. I'm a yoga teacher in Alberta, Canada, and I'm thrilled to be providing an endorsement for Vivekananda Yoga University's Masters of Science Yoga program. I first learned of this program when Dr. David Frawley shared it on social media, and I started my application immediately. Yoga, the practice of it, has completely transformed me. I love it, and I really wanted to learn more about the philosophy and the science behind it. And so far, I am astounded at what I have learned and gained one semester in. This program is unlike any other program that I've taken or any academic experience that I've had. The faculty administrators are extremely accessible. They genuinely want us to succeed. They challenge us for sure, and they make regular time to provide constructive feedback and support us on our journey. I love the cohort style of learning. The bond between my classmates and I is so profound. It's really quite beautiful. We regularly converse on WhatsApp. We support each other, we encourage each other, we laugh a lot at each other, at ourselves. There's this belief amongst us that we're in it together, and if one of us doesn't make it, none of us make it. So it's really nice to have this camaraderie and feel this camaraderie rather than the competitiveness that you often experience in academia. The wisdom throughout the material is so beautiful. I feel like we're truly learning how yoga works, why it works, and we're able to apply it to our daily lives and then take it out into the world. The challenges I've had so far in the program are pretty minimal, and they're due primarily to my disabilities and financial circumstance. The student coordinators and administrators have been really helpful and supported me as much as they can. And I'm so grateful for that. After graduation, I hope to get more education, perhaps a doctorate in yoga. I'd like to explore Ayurveda more as well. My dream is to open a residential-based healing center where yoga and Ayurveda will be used to guide people to connect with the healer within themselves. I highly, highly recommend this program. It is so powerful, inspiring, and important to learn about healing. And yoga is the sacred, ancient, divine science, India's unique gift to the world. And it's such an honor to be part of Swami Vivekananda's dream coming to fruition. I look forward to learning more. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be a part of Vivekananda Yoga University, and hope this endorsement inspires you to look into this program and dive deeper into yourself. Namaste.
Can you hear me? Perfect. Technology is wonderful, but the user still has some learning to do. So that video was made one semester in, and everything that I shared is still true, but there's so much more depth, understanding, and knowledge gained after completing 1 year of the program. This program, you know, Professor, when you talked about diving into yourself and inquiring within, that's sort of what naturally happens throughout the program, applying the theory and practicing. It's just this, it's not magic, it's science, but it often feels quite magical. This program has deepened my own sadhana. It's improved my teaching ability. I've gained greater clarity and a deeper connection to my dharma. It's afforded me the opportunity to better integrate yoga, both on and off my mat, right? It's very easy to practice yoga, the physical component of yoga, which often in the West is all people know. But the true wisdom and the sacred ancient medicine interwoven throughout my life is just been liberating. You know, I used to get upset about the injustice of things or try to change things, and learning to accept and let go is quite freeing. And, you know, there's a line in the Bhagavad Gita, which I don't know 100%, but it talks about everything happening is for the good, for your divine good. And remembering that has been a profound gift throughout my life. This program has been able to help me to explain both the modern science and yogic perspectives which has empowered me as a yoga teacher. And without even realizing, often little nuggets of yoga philosophy will come out, when people are talking about problems or complaining, or even when I'm teaching. As a result of a daily yoga practice and an integrated approach to yoga therapy, which we're taught in this program, my life is healthier, happier. I feel empowered and confident and just grateful. I'm in awe of the devotion that has gone into this program from the professors, the material. It's so beautiful. It's a labor of love for sure. I often find myself totally immersed in the material that I can't believe this is what I'm studying. Like, it's so wonderful. I could just stay in the program forever. Yeah, so that's, a sweet little endorsement from me. Applications for the fall of 2021 are now open. The Masters of Science commences in the fall. Interested applicants can apply, check out VaYU's website, and send application-related inquiries to apply at VaYUUSA.org. So the first question for Professor Raghuram is from an anonymous attendee, and it says, great scholars well-versed in the highest knowledge could not experience Ananda. How exactly does the intellect stand in the way of progress after its purpose has been served?
The Yoga Vasishtha, one of the profound yoga texts, gives us a very beautiful idea, saying that your own anxiety to reach the highest is the one which prevents you from going to the highest. You are so much caught up in the I have to reach that, I have to be that, and you become so serious. Spirituality is a celebration. Spiritual journey is a celebration. It's not like somebody's strain and pain and all that. That's kind of a thing. One has to take that way. A lot of people who take to the spiritual path, they tend to become so serious. That's one of the reasons why, though they know the highest principles, they do not get into that. The Yoga Vasishtha gives a story where he says that, look, I followed everything, but in spite of it, why is that I'm so miserable? He says that you let go so that you will feel that freedom from the misery. Buddha tried for 6 years, all kinds of practices, whatever that was suggested by that. He fasted, he gave up everything, and he was sitting and meditating for hours together. Absolutely nothing really happened. He became like bones. And the last day, that was the time when he was thirsty, and then he went down in Bodh Gaya, went down to take water from the river Niranjana. And he had hardly any energy to see that you can just reach the river. And then he touched the water, bent down, and then he was slipped into that water, and he was floating, and let go. Then he said, wow, a man with life, he drowns. A dead person floats. It is actually I was forcing myself to do. Now let go. That was the moment of realization for Buddha. The Siddhartha has become Gautama Buddha at that moment.
Oh, beautiful answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from Shanti Aribindi.
Yeah.
I apologize if I didn't get your name totally correct. The 3 ways to let go. Please expound. Thank you.
Yeah. 3 steps in the let go. Yeah, that is what I was thinking. That first thing is, you understand this. This is what is the knowledge. Jnana Yoga means basically, as I said, it is because of jnana, knowledge. So you analyze, understand it, then you know it. Now you can by various examples and all those things, we can bring it down. There is nothing missed. Don't make it mystified. It is something which can bring it to the normal understanding, simple understanding. But then understanding is not sufficient. What we need to do is to see that on similar situations in the past, that you try to see, analyze how you were and what you could do it. Second thing is, in the present day, any situation that comes up, try to apply that freedom that is there within. Somebody says something, something happens, immediately say, hey, should I get affected by that or not? Maybe another 10 minutes later that you might say, but then soon you realize that it was not necessary. This is what is called as manana. Like the way in yoga, that practice that you do, it's not one day that you are going to get, say, any particular asana. You do it repeatedly. When at the physical level, you have to repeatedly do it to see that that asana becomes your own. The same way, here also, that by repeatedly applying this particular principle of freedom within you, it slowly becomes your own. Slowly. This is what is called as manana. Now there is a very simple gap, clarity and understanding that we need to do. We also do the manana. In fact, whenever any situation occurs which is bitter, bad, horrible, etc., we do manana. That means we repeat and repeat and repeat about that. But every time we try to concretize the negativity aspect of it. That's what is in Sanskrit, we call it as chintana. Whereas instead of chintana, he says do manana. Manana is that I recognize that I have the freedom behind that scene. Therefore, I remember that freedom rather than holding on to the anger, bitterness of it. And that takes us, when we have that bitterness in our mind, then chintana will become vasana. That means you get affected by that and it multiplies. Like, some bad argument with somebody, and then I do the chintana of it. That means to say, I repeatedly talk about him. Then everything looks bad. His dress is bad, his voice is bad, his house is bad, his wife is bad, his husband is bad. It extends to everything else. That's what the problem of chintana. Whereas manana is, yeah, I have the freedom, all right. Why only that person? Let anybody say anything to me. I'm right. I'm doing it the right direction. So this is what is the manana. And third step, first is shravana, that is what is listening to it. Second is manana, and third is nididhyasa. Nididhyasa is, now let anything happen, nothing really disturbs me. That state of poise, internal poise that you reach, that's what is the third step.
Beautiful. I just love, I could listen to you talk for the rest of my life. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. I love what you talked about because it's really, that's the empowering thing about the practice.
Yeah.
A teacher of mine said, if you do yoga for an hour a day, then you're good for 23, right? And it just helps you, at least in my own experience, not be so bothered by all these things that really don't matter.
Yeah.
And most importantly, to recognize our own role, right? Like prior to yoga, I was miserable, but I was doing it to myself. Like it wasn't anyone else, right? My lifestyle, the things I do, right? So beautiful answer. The next question is from an anonymous attendee. Practically, can you indicate to us one thing that we can do to transcend the intellect? Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, it is necessary to practice situations where you can transcend intellect and be conscious. That means to say, you are aware, consciously there, but you transcended the intellect. I give a very simple day-to-day example. Like, I was in Germany and it was all doctors' company, and we had an evening dinner. After the dinner, naturally, they go into their own profession talk and all those things, and slipped into Deutsch language. And I'm ignorant about that to the core. So therefore, for me, I came out and there were children playing. And children, when they're playing, whatever language, you understand it. You don't hear it. So there were some 5, 6 children were there, and then one little girl was telling the other girl, count 20 and search for me. And that elderly, and I count 20 and I hide here, you search for me. Hide and seek they were playing. And that elderly girl, then she counted 20 and then came and said, you are here. And this girl, little girl, got angry. She said, what? I told you to search for me. And I'm going to be here. You should search everywhere, not here. You see the rule. And then girl said, okay, I will do that. And then next time she counted 20 and then searching here and there. And little girl said, hey, I'm here. Wow, so there is joy. See, if you bring in intellect, the whole, and they were playing for about half an hour. They were playing like that. I was enjoying, they were enjoying. Absolutely no intellect there. Meanwhile, one of the elderly persons, he came from the other group, he came out and then he looked at them playing. They said, no, you cannot tell like this. You cannot say where you are hiding it. And you should not say all these rules he brought about. You know what the children said? Let's go home. We are tired. Intellect tires you. Without intellect, you can enjoy the whole show. Many times you can do that. Many times you can just leave it aside and say, be peaceful with that. And these are situations which can, like this is what Khalil Gibran says, one of the mystics. He said that, look at the flower, don't intellectualize that. Similarly, in Buddha's, which flower is it? What's the name of this flower? And what is the variety of this flower? What the group it belongs? No. J. Krishnamurti said very beautifully one thing. He said, see a tree, but don't say a tree. Very important statement. See a tree, but don't say. What happens is the moment that we see a tree, immediately our intellect jumps in and saying that, oh, it's a tree. And don't say it. Unnecessary. Buddha was sitting under a tree and somebody ran in front of one way. And behind that person, few others came and said that, looked around. And then that was like a fork. So which road that person has taken. So he's Buddha sitting there. He said, has anybody gone this way? Buddha said, yes, somebody went this way. And they asked, is this person man or a woman? Buddha said, I don't know. See, what you see somebody moving is what the eyes have done, and then you are reported. But then to think that the person who went as a man or a woman, it's using your intellect. Our mind goes that far saying that maybe lady she is, and she is a depression, she may be middle age, and then she may be divorcee. All unnecessary things, intellect thinks about. Leave it alone. We can do it in the normal, simple day-to-day life. So, and one more example that I could suggest for people is that, intellect feels like the person is sitting in the passenger seat and somebody else is in the driving seat, especially if it happens to be your wife. My God, how many instructions you give, take left, take right, take this lane, take that lane, stop here, apply the, my God. Somebody is even, you don't even have anything there in front of you. But how many times we exercised that? A friend of mine, he bought a new car. Said, very beautiful car, I really love it. I said, what is this feature of this car? He said, it doesn't talk. I don't want another wife in my car.
Well, and it takes so much energy, right? Like we wonder why we're so tired, but when we're constantly getting caught up, we're draining ourselves.
Right. Let go.
Thank you. The next question is from Ragi Golupati, and it is, how is karma yoga led to Jnana Yoga?
Yes.
Is there a practical path you see in the connection?
Right. In fact, Krishna gives several indications, which what I said in the name of Jnana Yoga, you see the shades of it in the Karma Yoga. Because he says that once you know this is the work that you need to do it, go ahead and do it. In between, there are successes and failures that are there. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Success and failure, you know the direction, you know the goal, and then success and failures are there in between, a few hurdles. If you get caught up in that, you can never proceed further. That's why you say is that, you know, this is what from Bhagavad Gita, which I'm talking about, and it's in Mahabharata war, Krishna is telling to Arjuna, don't take Krishna to be God or anything like that. Just take a simple man, wise man, and he gave the advice to Arjuna. Means that in the war is not just like a cakewalk. War is something where you come so many ups and downs. And such a major upset was there. Arjuna's son was killed in the war in the beginning. Such a big thing. But then don't waver here and there. Please proceed further. That means to say, don't unnecessarily get caught up in these things. This is what he said, that don't get caught up with the small little simple things while doing karma yoga. Failures may be there. Failure may be there in the life right away. But if the goal is good, it will come out later. Wonderful. Look at Jesus Christ. He was crucified. If that you have taken it as the end of the whole mission, then karma would not have been done. Great people did the great work because they thought that the work is great. So go ahead and do it. Don't look at all these things. There's a very important message in Karma Yoga which we need to think of it. Like VaYU is there. When it started, it was like a trickle. There's nobody to. Srinath came and this and that. Like it grows, it develops itself. So good work always finds its way to grow.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, just let go and trust, right?
Yes.
The next question, I think we have a few more minutes still. What should we do to have an ideal life without stress and tension with respect to today's topic? Let go.
Beautifully said. Let go is the way. And what's very important thing is the life. Normally, what happens is very simple thing. I don't know how much people will be able to appreciate that. The cause for our unhappiness is our expectations. Eckhart Tolle says, be in the present. You are given a wonderful moment as a gift of God. That's what we call it, as a present from God. Be in that. Expectations.
Yeah.
Not from anybody else.
From a student's perspective, when we focus on the grades, we get a lot very stressed.
Yeah,
We
right.
let go.
Yeah.
Found that we're enjoying the material and just being in it, right?
Yes.
So yeah, just enjoy it. We're here. We're here. And last question is from someone anonymous. Sometimes it so happens that in the name of maintaining poise, internal freedom, one happens to neglect and get into inaction. How do we recognize where to act and where to remain silent?
That's a very important question. Actually, you see, yesterday I was talking where I said that if yoga is supposed to take you to inaction, Krishna should not have wasted the whole of Bhagavad Gita on Arjuna. He wanted to run away to the forest. Krishna could have said, yes, this is what is yoga. Both of us, let's go to the forest, sit and meditate. But a war, he made him to proactive. See, and another thing is, in order to make Arjuna to fight the war, Krishna did not have to give 700 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. He could have simply studied his emotion. Look at what are the losses that they have done to you, what happened to your Draupadi, what happened to this, what happened to your brother, saintly brother, and all those things. You stir the emotions, and you could have pushed Arjuna into action. It could have taken just about few minutes. But then, at that time, it is not Arjuna fighting the war. but it's the anger fighting the war. It's the frustration fighting the war. Don't bring in anger, but action has to be done with wisdom. See, it's not to run away from the world to become inactive, but to be active, proactive, but proactive with the wisdom. That's what we learn from the great people who have done the research work. Like, Edison, he did the experiment, 1,000 experiments failed. But then he said, no, I'll succeed. And next, he produced the bulb. We have to learn from that. Never become inactive. Inactivity is the death. Inactivity is, and that's what is a statement of Thomas Alva Edison, saying that when you stop doing an effect, doing an activity, that's when you are failure. Until that time, it's not a failure. So inactivity is only time when you have accepted the failure. If you did not become inactive, then you are not failed.
Yeah, that's so wise. So wise. There is one last question.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I fully understand it, so I'll do my best. Hello, my name is PK. This is from Pankaj Raja. How does one actually get interested in the beginning, as getting interested physically and mentally?
Curiosity is something which is we are born with. Let me go a little more into it. See, we have in Sanskrit, we have a word called as Jnana is knowledge. Not having knowledge, we call it as Ajnana. That means not having knowledge. I don't know, in English, the word that I come across is ignorance, isn't it? Or is there any better word? But the moment that you convert this ignorance into, every child is born with non-knowledge, no knowledge. Every child is like clean slate. So that means to say no knowledge. But he is not ignorant, because when you translate ignorant into verb, it becomes ignore. The child never ignores. The child is full of curiosity. So I fail to find a better English word than that. But anyway, if you can understand that, the child is having full of curiosity, full of curiosity. So that curiosity we are born with. See, that's why I say the child is not ignorant. I mean, ignorance is there, but together with that, the child also has innocence. Beauty of it is ignorance. And ignorance is removed with the help of knowledge. You come across various things and then you know about it. So therefore, so the child grows into the knowledge. But what happened to innocence? Where did we leave it? The moment we leave it, then we become arrogant. So the right answer is to have the knowledge, but maintain the innocence. Great people are great because not that they have the knowledge, but together with the knowledge, they maintain that innocence with them. A beautiful example is Newton. Newton had a cat coming into his lab, just every time knocking on the door. Newton is a genius. So he made a small little hole with a gate, which the cat can push inside and come inside and then go out, so that he could use it. Cat was peaceful, Newton was peaceful, everything was fine. But now the cat, in 6 months, 1 year, gave birth to kittens, 4 kittens. Newton made 4 more holes. See, this is innocence. And the same hole, other kittens also could use it. So on one side is genius, on the other side is innocent. I don't know whether it is true or not, but this is a story that I heard. So
well, it's a beautiful story, and there's wisdom in it, right? Children, animals are such good teachers, and something that I really took from your talk is when you talked about, the knowledge and the intellect that is Guiana Yoga. It's sort of that deeper knowing, right? We all have it inside of us, and somewhere along the way, through dramas and stories and a world that tells us we're not whole, and all the distractions and stimulation, we kind of forget that. And the yoga practice, in my experience, removes those things, kind of like cleaning dust off a mirror, right? And silence is the answer, right? When we can quiet our mind, as you beautifully said, yoga stills the fluctuations of the mind. Yoga, right? And to learn more, I mean, there's this beautiful program that I'm going to plug one last time. You can email VaYU and find out more information. So that's all the questions we have. Thank you so much, Professor Raghuram. I am honored to be in this webinar with you, and I look forward to your classes next year. I'm going to close with a prayer again. Nice and tall, spine is long, shoulders are down, your crown reaches to the sky. Connecting to that divineness inside you. Palms can come to your heart at Namaskar Mudra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashantu Ma Kashit Dukkha Bhagave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Beautiful. Thank you everyone for coming.